Sit quietly for a moment and listen not to the noise outside but to the subtle weight within your own space. Every home carries more than furniture and walls. It carries impressions, echoes of words spoken, emotions felt, and thoughts repeated. Over time, these unseen layers settle like dust in forgotten corners. You may clean your floors and open your windows, yet still feel a heaviness you cannot explain. This is the quiet accumulation of energy that has not been released. There comes a time to reset, to gently clear what no longer serves you. May 12th is not powerful because of superstition, but because you choose it as a moment of awareness, a deliberate pause to bring intention into your living space. When intention is clear, even the simplest act becomes meaningful. Salt in its humble form reminds us of purity and balance. It absorbs, it grounds, it restores. When you take a small bowl of salt and place it in the corners of your home, you are not performing magic, you are practicing mindfulness through action. Each corner represents a place often ignored, much like the hidden parts of your own mind. By tending to these spaces, you acknowledge what has been overlooked. As you move from one corner to another, do not rush. Walk slowly. Feel the contact of your feet with the ground. Notice your breath. With each placement of salt, set a quiet intention. May this space be light. May this space be calm. May what is heavy be released. These words are not commands to the universe. They are reminders to yourself. Understand this clearly. No external ritual can replace inner clarity. If the mind is filled with anger, fear, or attachment, no amount of salt can fully cleanse the environment. The home reflects the state of its inhabitants. So as you reset your space, you are also resetting your awareness. Let go of grudges. Release the need to control what has already passed. Invite stillness into your thoughts. When the sun begins to set on that day, take a final moment to observe your home. Notice not just how it looks, but how it feels. The change may be subtle, almost invisible, but it is real if your attention is real. Calmness does not arrive with noise. It settles quietly, like a soft breeze entering through an open window. Then when the time feels right, remove the salt. Do not cling to it. What serves its purpose must also be released. This is the nature of all things arising, fulfilling, and passing away. Carry this understanding beyond the ritual. Do not depend on objects or dates to find peace. Let them guide you but never bind you. A reset is not something you perform once. It is a way of living. Each day offers a new chance to clear, to soften, to begin again. When your home is tended with awareness and your mind is rooted in presence, there is no space left for lingering heaviness. In the end, the true cleansing is not in the salt you place in the corners, but in the attention you bring to each moment. When awareness enters, darkness has nowhere to stay. A home carries emotional and mental energy over time, not just physical objects, and this unseen weight can affect how you feel within your space. A home is often thought of as a simple arrangement of walls, furniture, and objects, but in truth it becomes a quiet container of everything that happens within it. Every conversation, every moment of joy, every instance of stress or silence leaves behind a subtle imprint. Over time, these impressions gather in ways that are not always visible to the eye, yet they can be felt. You may enter a room and sense comfort without knowing why, or feel unease even when everything appears perfectly in place. This is because a home does not only reflect what is seen, but also what has been experienced. Consider how emotions move through space. A moment of anger does not simply disappear when words fade, it lingers briefly, echoing in the atmosphere. Repeated patterns, worry, tension, restlessness can settle into the environment just as dust settles on a surface that is left untouched. Without awareness, this accumulation becomes familiar, and what is heavy begins to feel normal. People often try to escape this feeling by rearranging furniture or adding new decorations. But these changes, while pleasant, do not always reach the deeper layer where these impressions reside. To understand this more clearly, observe how your own presence influences a space. When your mind is calm, your surroundings seem lighter, more open. When your thoughts are crowded or unsettled, even a well-lit room can feel confined. This shows that the boundary between your inner state and your environment is not as solid as it appears. The home absorbs your state of being, and in return it reflects it back to you. Over time, this exchange creates a subtle atmosphere that shapes your daily experience. If not attended to, it can quietly influence your mood, your energy, and even your clarity of thought. This is why some spaces feel welcoming while others feel draining, even if there is no obvious reason. The difference lies in the quality of what has been left behind. Recognizing this is the first step toward change. Instead of seeing your home as a static place, begin to see it as something alive with memory and presence. This does not mean becoming attached to every feeling or trying to control every moment. Rather, it is about acknowledging that what you bring into a space matters and what remains unattended can accumulate. When you approach your home with this awareness, even simple actions take on new meaning. Opening a window is not just about fresh air, but about allowing movement where there has been stillness. Cleaning a surface is not just about appearance, but about clearing what has settled. In the same way, pausing to notice how a space feels is not an abstract idea, it is a direct way of reconnecting with your environment. In this understanding, the home becomes a mirror, quietly showing you what has been carried and what may need to be released. When you begin to notice these subtle layers, you create the possibility of lightness returning, not through force but through awareness. The May 12th salt ritual is not about superstition, but about setting a clear intention to pause, reset, and bring mindful awareness into your environment. When a space begins to feel heavy, it is rarely because of one single moment. It is usually the result of many small, unnoticed experiences layering themselves quietly over time. Just as water slowly shapes stone, daily life shapes the atmosphere of a home. Words spoken in frustration, thoughts held in silence, worries repeated in the mind, all of these do not simply vanish after they occur. They settle gently and invisibly into the environment where they were experienced. This is why a place that once felt peaceful can gradually begin to feel different without any obvious change in its physical appearance. People often respond to this shift by trying to fix what they can see. They clean more often, rearrange rooms, or bring in new objects in the hope that something external will restore balance. While these actions can bring temporary freshness, they do not always address the deeper pattern. The real condition of a space is not only in its arrangement but in the energy of attention that has filled it. If attention has been scattered, anxious, or heavy, the space reflects that quality back in subtle ways. This is where the idea of a conscious reset becomes meaningful. A chosen moment such as May 12th is not important because of the date itself, but because it serves as a reminder to pause with intention. In the flow of everyday life, awareness is often scattered. By designating a moment for reflection and clearing, you create a break in that pattern. This break allows you to see your environment not as something ordinary, but as something that can be renewed. The use of salt in this process is symbolic and practical at the same time. Salt has long been associated with preservation and purification in many traditions. Not because of any hidden force, but because of its natural properties and its ability to represent stability. When placed quietly in the corners of a home, it serves as a physical reminder that attention is being given to areas that are often ignored. Corners in a house are similar to corners in the mind, places where things are stored but rarely observed. As you move through each corner, the act itself becomes more important than the object being used. The slow movement encourages awareness. Instead of rushing, there is an invitation to be present with each step. In that presence, you may begin to notice not only the space around you, but also the space within you. Thoughts may become clearer, breathing may slow, and a subtle sense of order may begin to return. However, it is important to understand that no external action can replace inner responsibility. If the mind remains filled with unresolved tension, the environment will continue to reflect it in some form. The purpose of any ritual or symbolic act is not to create change by itself, but to support a shift in attention. Real transformation happens when awareness is carried beyond the act and into daily behavior. After completing such a reset, the true work begins in maintaining clarity. This does not mean controlling every thought or eliminating all difficulty. It means becoming more observant of what is being carried into the space each day. A calm word, a moment of silence, or even a conscious breath can gradually prevent unnecessary heaviness from accumulating again. In this way, a home is not just reset once, but continuously cared for through attention. The environment and the mind remain in constant exchange, each shaping the other. When this relationship is understood, even ordinary moments become opportunities to keep both space and self clear, open, and balanced. Placing salt in the corners symbolizes addressing neglected spaces both in your home and within your own mind, and consciously releasing accumulated heaviness. True change in a home does not begin with objects or rituals alone, but with the way attention is used from moment to moment. Most people move through their living space while thinking about the past or the future, rarely noticing the present environment they are in. Over time, this lack of presence creates a kind of emotional residue. It is not something visible, but it can be felt in the way a room seems either welcoming or strangely distant. The space begins to mirror the scattered nature of the mind that inhabits it. When awareness is absent, even simple actions become mechanical. Cleaning, organizing, and rearranging may still happen, but without conscious attention, they only touch the surface. The deeper layer remains unchanged. This is why a space can appear tidy yet still feel unsettled. What is missing is not effort, but mindful presence. Without it, energy continues to circulate without direction, and the home slowly becomes filled with unprocessed impressions of daily life. A moment of intentional reset, such as the symbolic act associated with May 12th, serves as a reminder to bring awareness back into alignment. The importance is not in the date itself, but in the decision to pause. In that pause, something subtle shifts. Instead of moving automatically through familiar routines, there is an opportunity to observe what has been overlooked. This observation is the beginning of clarity. Salt in this context becomes a simple tool for focus. It does not carry power on its own, but it helps anchor attention. When it is placed in the corners of a home, it draws awareness towards spaces that are usually ignored. Corners often represent accumulation of dust, forgotten items, and still air. In the same way, the mind also has corners where thoughts and emotions gather without being examined. By acknowledging these areas physically, there is a gentle reflection of the inner process. As one moves slowly through the home during this practice, the act becomes less about changing the environment and more about changing the quality of attention being given to it. Each step encourages slowness. Each placement of intention encourages presence. In that presence, the mind begins to settle naturally, not through force but through observation. There is no need to create change aggressively. Awareness itself begins to soften what is rigid. Yet it is essential to understand that no external method can permanently replace inner awareness. A ritual may open the door, but it is daily consciousness that keeps it open. If the mind returns to old patterns of agitation, complaint, or distraction, the environment will gradually reflect that state again. This is not a failure of the method, but a reminder that the source of experience lies within. Sustaining clarity requires simple but consistent attention. It can be as small as noticing the breath while entering a room or pausing for a moment before reacting emotionally. These small acts prevent unnecessary accumulation from building up again. Over time, they shape both the inner and outer environment. In this understanding, a home is not a fixed structure but a living reflection of awareness. When attention is scattered, the space feels dense. When attention is clear, the space feels open. The real reset, therefore, is not a single event but an ongoing way of being present with life as it unfolds. True cleansing comes from inner clarity without calming the mind and letting go of negative emotions. No external ritual can fully transform your space. A home is never just a physical structure. It is a living reflection of everything that passes through it. Every mood, every conversation, every silent thought contributes to the atmosphere that gradually forms within its walls. Most people do not notice this process because it happens slowly, almost imperceptibly. Yet over time, a space can begin to feel different without anything obvious changing. The furniture remains the same, the walls remain the same, but something in the feeling of the place shifts. This shift is often the result of accumulated mental and emotional activity that has not been consciously released. When life becomes busy, attention is rarely fully present in any one place. People think while they cook, worry while they sit, and carry unfinished thoughts from one room to another. In this way, the home becomes a vessel for fragmented awareness. These fragments do not disappear on their own, they settle quietly into the background of the space. As days turn into weeks, this subtle accumulation creates a kind of heaviness that is difficult to define but easy to feel. A conscious reset is an opportunity to interrupt this pattern. The significance of a moment such as May 12th is not in the date itself, but in the decision to treat it as a point of awareness. When a person chooses a specific time to observe their environment with intention, they step outside of automatic living. In that moment, the home is no longer just a place of habit, but becomes an object of mindful attention. Salt, used in this symbolic practice, represents simplicity and grounding. It is not powerful in a mystical sense, but it is powerful as a reminder. When placed in the corners of a home, it directs attention towards spaces that are often forgotten. Corners are where stillness collects, where dust settles, and where movement rarely reaches. In the same way, the mind has corners where thoughts and emotions are stored without awareness. By acknowledging these physical corners, there is a reflection of the inner landscape. As the practice unfolds slowly, something subtle begins to change. The act of moving deliberately through each space encourages presence. Instead of rushing from one task to another, attention is drawn into the simplicity of each moment. This slowness allows the mind to become more settled. Thoughts that were previously scattered may begin to organize themselves naturally, not through control, but through observation. However, the most important understanding is that no external action can permanently clear what is internally maintained. If the mind continues to generate stress, judgment, or restlessness, the environment will eventually mirror those states again. The outer space and inner state are constantly influencing each other. This is why awareness must extend beyond a single ritual and into daily living. A true reset is not limited to a specific day or practice. It is a continuous refinement of attention. It is the willingness to notice what is being carried into each moment and what is being left behind. Even small shifts such as pausing before reacting can be very effective, or taking a conscious breath while entering a room can gradually change the quality of both mind and environment. In this way, the home becomes a teacher. It reflects back the condition of awareness without judgment. When attention is scattered, the space feels dense. When attention is steady, the space feels open. The real cleansing is not in what is done occasionally, but in how consistently awareness is brought into everyday life. The real purpose of the ritual is to cultivate ongoing awareness learning to regularly reset your environment and your thoughts, rather than relying on one-time actions. A home is often treated as something permanent and stable, but in truth it is always changing. It changes not only through time and physical wear, but through the invisible patterns of human experience that unfold within it every day. Every thought, every emotion, every interaction contributes something subtle to the environment. Most of these contributions are unnoticed in the moment, yet they accumulate like layers that shape the overall feeling of the space. Over time, these layers form an atmosphere that can either feel light and open or dense and unsettled, depending on what has been consistently experienced within those walls. People tend to assume that what affects them in a home must be something visible or logical, such as clutter, lighting, or noise. While these factors do matter, they are only part of the picture. There is also a quieter dimension that is shaped by attention itself. When attention is fragmented, distracted, or constantly pulled towards stress and concern, it leaves a trace in how a space is experienced. A room may be clean and organized, yet still feel tiring to be in. This is because the quality of awareness that fills the space plays a deeper role than arrangement alone. A symbolic reset such as the practice associated with May 12th is meaningful not because of external belief, but because it introduces intention into something that is usually automatic. When a person decides to consciously observe their environment, even for a short time, they interrupt habitual patterns. This interruption creates space for awareness to become active again. In that space, it becomes possible to notice what has been ignored both outside and within. Salt in this context serves as a simple anchor for attention. It is not the source of change, but a reminder of it. When placed in the corners of a home, it draws awareness toward areas that are typically overlooked. Corners symbolize stillness, accumulation, and neglect. They quietly gather what movement forgets. In the same way, the mind gathers unresolved impressions in its unnoticed corners. By tending to physical corners, there is a mirrored invitation to acknowledge inner ones. As the practice is carried out slowly, the act itself becomes more important than the outcome. Moving with awareness from space to space encourages presence. Instead of rushing or performing mechanically, attention becomes grounded in each moment. This groundedness allows the mind to settle naturally. Thoughts begin to lose their scattered quality not because they are forced away, but because they are observed without engagement. Yet it is important to understand that no external method can create lasting change on its own. A ritual may open awareness temporarily, but if daily patterns remain unchanged, the same accumulation will return. The home reflects the continuity of inner states. If those states remain tense or unexamined, the environment will eventually echo that condition again. This is why the deeper practice is not in occasional actions, but in ongoing awareness. Sustaining clarity requires simple but consistent attention. It does not demand perfection, but it does require honesty in noticing how one moves through daily life. Small moments matter. The tone of speech, the quality of thoughts, the presence or absence of awareness during routine tasks. Each of these influences the atmosphere of a home in subtle ways. In the end, the home becomes less of a place that needs periodic fixing and more of a reflection that continuously responds to consciousness. When awareness is present, space feels open and balanced. When awareness is absent, heaviness slowly returns. The true reset is not an event, but a way of living where attention is no longer forgotten in the background of life.